John, good to see you once again. Good to be here. It's always a pleasure. We got a lot to talk about tonight. There's so much happening. The things we've been waiting for, and you mentioned early on about the plan. As we watched this evolution, we studied it, we dissected it, we analyzed it, we took heat for it, we were attacked for it, and we were ridiculed because of it. So I have to say right now that we have these apparently some 6-year deltas that are now coming to pass, is pretty epic. It never bothered you. It never bothered me. I never took it personal. I just thought, well, the day's coming. They're going to see it all. They're going to see what we were learning at that time is actually part of not an immediate takedown or shakedown, but an evolutionary walk for all humanity to get a better understanding, a deeper understanding at a pace their psychology can actually endure and get to a point where they can see with their own eyes what's happened to the world and what's being done about it. So yeah, it's great times. It's been a lot of fun. It's been Christmas in Disneyville every day we wake up since the inauguration. It's like you wake up, it's like at 12 o'clock midnight, the sun is shining everywhere. Like, it's crazy. Mm-hmm. Anyways, it's good to be back here on the 40,000 foot view.
Thank you, Scott, and well said. And, it inspires me to crack the ice here in the discussion, because there's a lot of topics I want to get to. But, you talked about every day is like Christmas, so to speak. It's a fire hose of validations for folks like you and I and many other people that went out on the limb and reported these things years before it became official. Well, things are official now, Scott. We can see that in this administration. What I see going on is, first off, they were busy the last 4 years down at Mar-a-Lago. They weren't just having parties and clinking champagne glasses in the country club. President Trump, that was command central. The White Hats and the team and the inner circle were busy. And that's, in my opinion, why they were able to get this cabinet in there, get the administration seated immediately, and sprung into immediate action legally and other ways on multiple fronts. And the Democrats' heads and the deep state cabal is spinning. We caught them this time. And so I look at it as an age of true transparency that's now coming to play. You've got Kash Patel talking to us, letting us know what he's doing, what he intends to do. A direct communication line of intel, we'll call it, straight from the horse's mouth. The FBI director is our friend now. What a concept. And the deputy director. Now, of course, time has to see how it all plays out. But from what I see in these 30 days, boy, it's exciting. You've got Pam Bondi talking with us. You've got Elon Musk big time talking to us and revealing and being transparent. And certainly President Trump, who's always been, is continuing to and ramping it up. And what I mean by this, Scott, is it's a paradigm shifting moment in the information war and in the media landscape. And I'd like to break that down with you. I've got some views and some things I want to touch on, but would you care to weigh in on what you see taking place now that we're getting straight reveals from the White House, from people we can trust, and talk about broadcasting from Gitmo soon? What do you think about all this?
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I think it's interesting that the White House are no longer allowing the White House. I don't know if it's whatever department in the White House, or maybe the media determines who comes into the White House press room. They're the ones who controlled that. They don't control it anymore. The White House controls it. And that's why they're going to allow podcasters in. And they have, which I think is fascinating. And what you shared with me tonight is they're doing the same at Gitmo. Well, they're going to bring podcasters in. They're looking at a list of potentials that may want to come down there and report because they know they're going to get the truth from the podcast community. There's for the most part, there's no dressing that goes on that window with reporting from people like you or myself and other great podcasters who are going to give the unvarnished truth. There's nobody can influence what we say and how we see it. That's very interesting. Like everybody else, I probably have a little bit of a different viewpoint or take, or a trajectory of discernment that I am repositioning for all the great stuff that's happening. There's a few things I see that are happening that I'm not really comfortable with, but I'm looking at a geopolitical field from 80,000 feet on some of these. I just keep my eye on them. But here's a case in point. We had learned earlier today that I think it was DOD said that they were not going to allow, the DOJ halted the release of the Epstein files Epstein client list. They didn't give a date when they'd release it. And it's interesting that they haven't released it yet. Pam Bondi then comes forward and says, we're releasing it tomorrow on the 27th, sometime in the morning. Great. Based on what I have experienced for 30 years in the geopolitical scope of this world, specifically the country, I'm going to watch everything with the same level of discernment and distrust for government that I did before Trump came to power. I'm going to make sure in my own mind that when they're releasing this information, it's not, again, surface information, which really doesn't mean a whole lot. I know they got to redact things. They got to protect some victims. I understand there's some 200 victims that are that the decisions to not release the entire full Monty are predicated upon, and I get that. I understand that, but at some point, all of it has to come out, and I'm just sitting waiting. It's kind of like, I've seen this for decades. I've seen it with Republicans who get in positions of power, and they're going to do this, this, and this, and they give you window dressing, if any dressing at all, and this things never, ever, ever come. So because that's what got us in this position in this country and the world in the first place, I'm looking at this Trump administration the same way. I'm going to make sure at least one of us doesn't have a kumbaya free pass for everything that these amazing department heads and agency heads are doing. I'm going to scrutinize everything with the exact same tenacity I've scrutinized everybody since 2016. So I have kind of a wait and see attitude. Let's see the depth of the information they put out. If it looks like they're putting out just enough to pacify us, that it isn't gonna roll over me like that. I'm gonna be prepared to call these people out because I'm not gonna let the American people, many of us who waited all this time to get this information to it's in its full capacity, I'm not going to allow that, at least from my seat, to not happen in a measure, number one, of respect and a measure of depth of what we, the people, should get to know about this cast of characters, these rapists, these killers, these people who are involved in the bribery side of it, the politicians, the business side. I want to see it all, and I'm watching with a hopeful eye, and everything that we see so far is pretty remarkable coming out of the White House and the administration. But at the same time, I'm never going back to what I once was. I'm never going to give everybody a free pass. I did that with the Republican Party. It took years to get egg on my face from that, but everybody got a free pass. Well, there's a reason why they didn't carry through on this promise, and always made excuses. But now I'm excited to see how they play it out. If they come out in a measure of real substance, then I'll be hopeful. Like, wow, they really are definitely doing this. How does the DOJ make an announcement that they're not allowing the Epstein list to come out? And then Pam Bondi's going to say, oh, yes, it is. We still have people running block. And if they are, I want to make sure that those who are supposed to be serving us in this epic time are running no block as well. So anyways, I'm cautiously optimistic. Everybody else is full on head first in the pool. I'm not. My feet are in the water. I'm checking it out. Let's see what happens.
Very wise. And we need you and others to do that. I'm a little bit more glass half full, but not fully. You know, I don't drink the Kool-Aid. I'm not that kind of guy. Everybody who knows me knows that. But the way I look at it, Scott, you have the camp that says, Trump's a Khazarian mafia, or he's working for Israel, or he's a deep state controlled Rothschild Rockefeller asset. You know about that group. Now, I vehemently disagree with that. And but why I'm invoking that here is because when you look at what I'm talking about, the man, the person, the individual named Donald Trump, what he and his family has been through, and the sacrifice that they made and continue to make, and the risks of his life, which continue to remain day by day a threat. Mm-hmm. The Q, I know you're not a Q decoder and you didn't follow it intently, and neither did I, but you're very familiar with Q and the plan.
No, actually, I can't imagine. I did follow it intently. My whole introduction is based, if you look at the intro to my shows, that whole video introduction is all based on the entire operation. So I've never hidden that at all.
Yeah. Okay, well, great. Yeah, I didn't mean as hiding. I just didn't know how intently you focused on the Daily Post, but I'm glad you did, and I know you're very familiar with Q. And my point is this: you got Q, you got Trump, and the sacrifice, and the incredible things he has done from the day he walked down that escalator to here that transformed narratives all over the world. I can't imagine that at this stage of the game, that this is a bullshit story. In other words, business is going to get done. Keep in mind, we are under a wartime structure. He is a
Mm-hmm.
wartime president. For lack of being a constitutional expert, as I'm not, I will say this in layman's terms. Um, uh, when there's a martial law, the Constitution is suspended. Okay, protocols do not have to take place. All right. I don't want to confuse that with Trump's a dictator and all that other stuff. We're doing everything by the law and by the Constitution. But the fact of the matter is, if there's blockage, even in the big names that we all favor, and some of the names I mentioned, I do not believe that 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 what the American people do. Let me rephrase it. What the American people deserve to know, I believe we're going to get it. Now, this game with the Epstein list, I find interesting. We're going to find a lot of these things interesting, but I do believe it's all coming out. And I also would say this, and I hate to say it because we're all sick of hearing it, but timing. They know what to do and when to do. That's how I look at it. But I'm glad you're being, for lack of a better word, a skeptic on this, as we should be. What administration has served us well our entire lifetime? Probably none. Truthfully speaking, I think enough truth bombs have been revealed through Trump and his network, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm hopeful and a little more. I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to get things done. But you know what? We're going to wait and see what happens. But this is it. This is the last opportunity, in my opinion. Trump is a force of nature. He's not a replaceable individual. Just isn't. Some people are
No.
not. Christ was not a replaceable individual. Okay,
Yeah.
pick your favorite person in any particular area that is stellar. You'll find there are certain people that are that unique, that powerful, that much of a force of nature. We've got these 4 years. Some say more than 4 years, but let's remember President Trump will be in his 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we're going to get the job done this time, Scott. Um, we'll see how it plays out, right? Um, let's talk about justice for a minute because it dovetails into the concern both you and I and everybody has. There's been no substantial or real justice to speak of in light of what we all know about, sex trafficking, pedophilia, the Hollywood mess, the music industry, the NGOs, everything Doge is revealing, Federal Reserve, the IRS. I mean, everything basically. Not everything, but you know what I'm talking about. The whole construct of how our lives have been manufactured in the matrix is most of it is bullshit and a lie, and
Mm-hmm.
has been against the Constitution. So there's a lot to get through. But if you look at what we've done in 30 days, it's pretty extraordinary, and we got 4 years ahead of us. But talking about justice, I've been speaking to some other guests, Juan and recently Derek Johnson and Josh Reed. I'd like you to weigh in as well. You've got a lot of people. If we're going to get the job done, drain the swamp, these people have to be
Mm-hmm.
processed. And they have to be, are they, and the question is, are they being processed in civilian courts? Are they being processed in military law tribunals? What determines that? I've learned a few things, but I would say that there'll be a lot of concern for those listening that if they're processed in civilian court, what good is that? The whole systems are rigged. Except now we have Pam Bondi in a very high position.
Mm-hmm.
Except we have Kash Patel in a very high position. So I'm going to play devil's advocate on the other flow of this and say it's not business as usual. Now it's got to be proven to us. I'm with you there, but we have checkpoints at high places now, and let's see. And look, Letitia, whatever her name is, some of these people are already getting smacked down. Some of the blockers, the obstacles. It's a good sign, Scott, that they're not taking the bullshit anymore. So let's we know there's tons of that out there, but I would just
Mm-hmm.
say that civilian system is a little more justice has to be restored, or there's nothing. What's your take and feel on the justice process, Gitmo versus civilian, and what do you see coming down the pike if the floodgates get opened, as I believe they will, from the FBI director Kash Patel? What's your take on that?
My thought is that we've got 535,000 sealed indictments that have to be opened and dealt with. If you look at the sheer vastness of that number, to put it into context, in any given year coming out of DOJ prior to Trump becoming president the first time, you may have 1,000 sealed indictments put out by DOJ. Within 2.5 years, we were at 70, 80,000 sealed indictments under the Trump administration, and that's worldwide, not just here. So we're at 500,000. And how can you possibly deal, even if you're dealing with the top 10%, which would be 50,000 people, the worst, how could you possibly get them through a court system and get justice when you have the nonsense from the court system? You've got the appeal process. If there's a death penalty, whatever, 15, 20 years, it's not even doable, right? So my belief is that, and many do not know, that there are constitutional provisions that dictate that when one branch of government, in this case, the exec or the judicial branch, can no longer serve its function because it has become, let's say, for lack of a better words, I like Juan's term, a captured operation. It cannot serve or do justice because of the infiltration. In that case, the military is now the body that will then try these individuals, and very likely as enemy combatants, because that's what they all are. I don't care if they're congressmen, they're governors. These are enemy combatants working against a force in the world that's looking to take down this country, and on its face, it's high treason. So in my opinion, we've got to get the tribunal process being the primary way to deal with it. But making the leap from the court system to the tribunal process for the average American is going to be a massive divide for them to rectify in their soul, or reconcile in their own mind, without having the fear factor become a very big piece of their how they see this thing playing out. So that being said, I've watched this operation, this military intelligence operation, help this walk evolve at a speed where people can slowly wake up, versus hitting them with a bucket of ice cold water in the morning to wake them up, give them a heart attack. You're not going to get them to recover enough to not be upset with you or to ease their way into the day. That's why you slowly, open a door, crack it, lights comes in, say their name, they don't move, touch their shoulder. You do it through a process so it doesn't create a shock and a retraction. And I believe that that's what they've done for the last 4 years, 5, 6 years, 7 years. But to get to a point where we start having real justice being dealt to the worst characters, there's going to have to be some speed to activate this thing. And my thought is this: one of the Q drops said the first arrest will send shockwaves. The first arrest will send shockwaves. We haven't seen an arrest that sent shockwaves. It wasn't Diddy. People have known forever he's a scumbag and likely a killer. Epstein, nobody knew who he was. We did 8 months before they picked him up at Teterboro. Whoever was following the operation intently, we knew exactly who he was. Prior to that, none of us knew, and most of the world didn't know who he was before he was arrested. We knew that. That didn't send shockwaves. It sent excitement through the ranks because we saw things are really happening. But my guess is that through the course of the Justice Department engaging whatever level of characters they have to engage to start bringing justice, that there could potentially be a major player, a major figure, the one that would send shockwaves, and clear evidence of a conspiracy to commit treason or a conspiracy that led to it. That in and of itself would carry enough weight and enough inertia already in motion to be unstoppable. And that would, I think, strike the heart of the American people, that the gravity of this thing this particular event or discovery of moves that were made by major players in this world, including in this country, would be so great that potentially that could be the bridge that's not too far to cross when you now see military operators rounding up people that we know at high levels of political power, political players, governors, DC, big tech people, Hollywood people. I think that's about the only way that we can get to the speed we need to deal with this. Kind of like a Nuremberg 2.0, except times 100 or 1,000, because there wasn't a whole lot going on during those trials. A lot of misdirections in those trials back then as well. I've thought this thing through for a while. How do we get there? You and I want to see tribunals. We want to see firing squads. We want to see public hangings. We want to see all of that. I believe we're going to get to that at some point. If we don't, and I would say this to those people who are controlling the movement of this thing, I'm an average Joe Lunch Bucket, Sally Sewing Needle, Redneckville American where I grew up. And I can tell you, if people do not see the capacity with which they deserve injustice being administered openly, they're going to learn that they're going to have to do something, in my opinion, to convince Americans that this thing is really, really happening. We really are watching the takedown of the satanic empire on this planet. We've all come to expect it. We have faith in it. We believe in it. We're demanding it. And I believe the other side that's walking this thing through knows it too. But just in case there's any blip on the radar screen with what they are doing and what they think they may not need to do, I'm just going to say point blank, you better do it. We've been locking and loading for this for 8 years. And for lack of better words, the only Patriot Street Fighter vocabulary I have is we better see some heads roll. We better see from what we learned through the Q drops that the justice that's going to come is going to be so decisive that it's going to send a message to everybody around the world. Do not ever try anything like this again, because the gravity of what will be dealt with, how you'll be dealt with, will be unspeakable, and absolutely a scenario that nobody would ever want to find themselves in. So I sound like a bit of a devil's advocate myself, but I'm just making sure we have so much time, 35 years of my life vested in this, and emotions vested in it, relationships, some that we have and some we don't have anymore, vested in it. We better get the justice that's going to satisfy the patriots who've been putting their lives on the line and suffering the consequences of losing friendships, family members, all this stuff. So it better be of the same gravitational force as the COVID murder machine, the bioweapon release, the kill shot, remdesivir, ventilators to kill people. It better have that kind of gravity to it.
Mm-hmm. Well said. And, President Trump spoke about, and he put it out on Truth Social or X and one of the platforms a while back, and you'll be familiar with it. And I'm paraphrasing the president. He stated that pretty much what you just talked about. He said, we will process to the fullest the sentencing for individuals. We will go for the most hardest, strictest, longest sentences, prison term sentences. And again, I'm not doing it justice what he said. He didn't apologize for it because he doesn't apologize. But he almost said, like, I wish we didn't have to, but take it to the bank. That's what we're going to do. And he's also talked about, so he's talking about imposing the longest, strictest prison sentence for those that aren't going to be executed. And he has definitely spoken throughout these couple of 3 years on the campaign trail and in interviews. He's mentioned treason is execution. And so, you don't throw those words around as the commander-in-chief and president of the United States. You don't pull the red line that you keep pulling back. If Trump puts it out there, he's a man of his word. He's done that. He showed us the first 4 years. I believe it's coming. I believe it's coming. The 13 congressmen, women, I think that Kash Patel has got his eyes on that have threatened the life of the president or something of the sort that he's going to take down. There's 51 FBI agents that one after made the whole agreed upon lie about the Hunter laptop. Those 51,
Yeah.
he's officially targeted, and he's officially published this. We need to see it, but man, I tell you, it's coming, and it's coming. As I said earlier, I want to finish the sentence earlier. When I said Trump, is a Khazarian mafia, he's controlled by the Rothschilds and Rockefellers. He's the big psyop against you and me. Of course, that's not true. But let me say this: if none of this stuff starts to happen, if they just throw out a redacted list and throw us a bone here, there, and everywhere, after everything this nation has been through, then you know what? Those that call Trump that, they would be right. And I know he's not right. Therefore, I know in my heart this is going to happen. But I'm waiting just like you, just like the rest of the country. And, when you talk about Q, the first arrest will shock the world, send shockwaves. Juan and I discussed this. That could have been Trump. That big arrest could have already happened. They didn't say the big arrest is going to be a deep state asset. They said a big arrest will shock the world. Well, it shocked the world when Trump got arrested. But in terms of, there's still the narrative out there that there will be the big arrest. If it wasn't Trump, a big arrest is coming. Who is it going to be? I don't know. But I do believe once that Epstein list is released, and the Diddy list is released, and the people that Kash Patel has specifically and professionally targeted, they're going down. And you can guess all day long who the first one would be. I have no idea, but I believe it's coming. And you commented on the 500,000 sealed indictments, which is also validated by Department of Defense Task Force member Dr. Jan Halper Hayes, concurs with that as well. You're right. Just the logistical aspect. How the heck are you going to process 500,000 human beings, even if you had a compliant system? My answer to that is it's going to take the duration of the next 2 to 4 years, and we got to go for the big fruit first to set the stage and put it out there. And I believe it's all coming. Reporting from Gitmo is a big deal because that's what we've been longing for. People like yourself, and you've been one of the most vocal and successful and well-trafficked and well-followed independent podcaster voice in this movement over these years. And what have we had to do? We had to go dig for information from our people we know and the homework that we do. That's going to be easier for us now because at least the window dressing of it, we'll wait and see. You got a team of social media warriors, podcasters, skillful journalists, handpicked to go to Gitmo. That's never happened in history. So, let's see what they report from Gitmo. That's very important. And so the reveals are coming. For you and I, we're bored to death. The reveals that they're putting out there to the public now, you and I have known about some of it for 5, 10, 20, 50 years, but the majority don't. So the reveals are ramping up. But I'm with you, Scott. Action. We need to see that first person get arrested, go down, and then this thing really start to take off. And speaking to one other point, the same point, Scott, of 500,000 people, there's multiple JAGs, the Navy ships conducting investigations and so forth. I understand it's in Guam, in airplanes. We've got expandable Gitmo. I think if we're going down the trajectory that the administration has promised us, I believe that the crux of the kingpins, they got to come down first to keep everybody else running and cutting deals as we come after them. And if we take it from that approach, our danger as citizens here diminishes significantly. And you mentioned briefly before that, the military will round people up. That's what the 10 days of darkness in part may have been about. I do believe that's going to happen. In terms of I believe the National Guard wasn't federalized willy-nilly. It's federalized for what's coming. And and the 200 plus generals and all those that are under the command of those 200 some odd generals, we got Hegseth, we got Trump as the commander in chief. I believe that the shit's going to hit the fan on the streets as we round them up. But I do believe being a military operation, and Michael Jaco has stated this, he said on air that he's sat in on at least 1 or 2 tribunals at Gitmo, if I'm quoting him correctly, they are very swift tribunals. They're not like the civilian system. So,
Yeah.
there's a little
One
bit
day.
of hope there. Yeah, in terms of the speed. Here's the evidence. There it is. What say you? Blah, 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 blah. Boom.
Hmm.
Okay. I mean, not that simple,
Yeah.
but maybe. So, but it's an extraordinary time. I want to jump around the block here a bit because we've only got, maybe 10, 15 minutes to go here. Let's talk about the economy. What do you see there? I'll set it up for us. We have Trump removing IRS agents and redeploying them or eliminating them. We have Trump talking about eliminating the IRS altogether. Why should we, the taxpayer, work our butts off and lose 15 to 50% of it in income tax alone, never mind all the other taxes? And then they take those income taxes and fund unauthorized wars that we have no business fighting, and so forth and so on, or it gets funneled to all these organizations that Doge is revealing, which are doing all those horrible things to human beings. Trump's talking about getting rid of the IRS and replacing it with the External Revenue Service, a complete flip-flop. Let the foreign countries pay to do business with us, and if they do, they're allowed to. And then let those profits come back to the American taxpayer. Hello, what a concept. I really believe, Scott, when you start connecting the dots on some of the broad subjects that we touched on briefly today, what I see happening is Trump keeping his promise of 2016 election, when he was sworn in. When he had the military there for a reason. And he said, I'm returning the power back to you. It's your country. And the things that are on the docket today, first, justice, cleaning out the shit. Second, pardon my language in this show, folks. I guess I'm around Scott McKay. I loosened up a little bit with all respect. But, but the fact
we got Elon Musk dropping F-bombs now out there. Elon's dropping F-bombs. And, I just said the Patriot Street Fighter brought the F word, made the F word great again. Trump's using it. We've seen video of Trump saying it's actually quite funny. I mean, it's like the gloves are off. I'm like, folks, when it comes to war, drop the etiquette. Let's go in there with every weapon you got. You're right. So
now, there were some sensitivities with certain folks, and I understand that on certain language, and I get that. So you know what, folks, take a look at the big picture and the rest of the words and the rest of the work, and just sort of filter that one out and live with it for the moment. You've been the master of tweaking the bad words, hold the fork in line, and some other wonderful things you've come up with over the years to get your angst out there and be close to the vicinity of the word. You've done a great job at it, and it's been very entertaining at the same time. But a point I'm making here is when you look at all the dots, you look at just on the economy here for a minute. You look at the IRS, look at the Federal Reserve. Going into Fort Knox, what do you think that's going to lead to? Straight into the Federal Reserve, they want to audit it. Okay, you've got the currency debacle and what Trump is building to become the dominant currency, and what that system will be en route to an encrypted QFS coin of sorts, and the whole banking system changing. But when you look at all the issues, from the sex traffickers to the justice things to the media to the economy to all the things, the common thread is restoring the power back to us. What does us mean? It's a constitutional republic. In my monologue, we know that the IRS is unconstitutional. We know that the Federal Reserve is unconstitutional. We know that many of these things that we're discovering are. So if we're going to keep our promise, Mr. President, as he always kept his promises, I believe all these things are going to happen. The obstacles, you're raising a great question. How do we overcome the barrage of individuals there that are still anti-freedom, still anti-truth, still anti-America, still anti-Trump, is yet to be seen. But I'm reluctant to say this, but I'll say it with a disclaimer. Martial law, the Constitution is suspended. It's military laws and orders, as Derek Johnson drives home and SG and on. I don't want to fine line Trump's a dictator situation. But there may come a time where the president may make moves as the commander-in-chief that may be not very palatable to people, and will raise that discussion. I just know one thing. The president and the Q team and the military white hats have been operating in the confines of law, military and civilian. And I believe we will continue to use those tools to win the battle. And that's why it's taken so long. And it's also taken so long, which you alluded to before, Scott, of not throwing a cold bucket of ice water on the face of grandma and grandpa when they wake up in the morning, giving them a heart attack. I think we've done that. You and me, we, the movement, from top down and bottom up, we have succeeded in these last 10 years. We've accomplished first main mission. And now it's time to drop the hammer. And I'm waiting just like you are. But talk about the economy, Scott. You know a thing or two about that. You know, we're talking about the IRS, the Federal Reserve, the new currency being constructed along the way, and all of this. What's your take on that? And do you see the IRS going away? And do you see the Federal Reserve powers being shifted where it belongs, back to the people through the Treasury? What's your take on all that?
Yeah, I do. The IRS, it's a dead stick. Trump doesn't say these things because it's a maybe. He's not going to get people's hopes up that, number one, there's going to be money coming back to the people, and then it doesn't happen, or the IRS is going away. And he has multiple department heads saying the same thing. It's going to go away. It has to go away. It's absurd to me that it's taken us this long. So the reality is this. People think they don't understand the economic machine of the country and how badly they're being screwed and literally bent over. If America, if the people get a some picture, even a limited scope of how much of the world runs off of the back of the U.S. taxpayer, they're going to go nuts. Q said the most powerful economic force the world has ever seen is the U.S. taxpayer. What we know now is the entire national debt of about 38, 39 trillion, whatever it is. They can show through Doge all of that money, all of it that's owed for the national debt is stolen money from the taxpayer to do what all they've done, all the laundering, all the things that had no legitimacy to them. That equates to the same amount, at the same level and the size of our national debt. So what the heck is the IRS for, right? If the IRS is to run government and all those kind of things, how is it that there's so much money? You think about what $1 trillion looks like. We've heard what $1 billion looks like, stacking up $1 billion, the scope of that. We're talking trillions, $40 trillion. So number two is the External Revenue Service. And we can have all of the entire government and what it takes to run the federal government. It could be run on the tariffs that come into the United States with a whole lot of extra money, just like it was under McKinley, handing it over to Teddy Roosevelt, a massive fortune from that to be able to go build all the national parks and do what they did. So I had somebody I talked to, I met him today, Canadian, and brought up the fact that I'm really, really disturbed about, the tariffs. I don't know. I hope Trump doesn't follow through with that on Canada because it'll do this, this, and this. And my question was, so do you think it's fair that all the goods coming out of America are tariff taxed by every country in the world? So that's okay. So it's okay that we take a haircut here in this country because everything that gets sold in your country, Canada, gets hammered with a tariff, or China or Europe. But now they're all worried, what if the U.S. imposes tariffs on us? And you have people in our own country saying, I don't know if that's fair. This is how programmed we are. This is when I say cut the bullshit. You got to break out of this dream spell that we were born into, and the narration of it keeps us in this dream spell that we can't even see fairness here. Every country on the planet should be paying top dollar to sell their wares into this country, because everything that comes into this country manufactured elsewhere takes away American jobs. It's taken away American industry. It's wiped out the industrial power of the United States. Yet it's fair that they can tariff us also on our stuff going out, but we can't tariff their stuff. It's absurd to me. So from the economic side, I can't really put my finger on what's going to happen with the actual U.S. dollar itself. But I can say this. If they get rid of the IRS, which they're going to, you're looking at a massive explosion of wealth in this country among the middle class. You're talking about an average 30% pay raise, everybody in the country. Imagine if you go to work, they say we're gonna give you a raise this year, and people are they typically think like a 5 or 8% raise, and they're dancing in the streets for an 8% raise. Everybody, you're getting a 30% raise. What? It'd be mind-boggling. The amount of money. I mean, you get $1,000 paycheck, and $675 you get to take home from $1,000 worth of production. Now, imagine a person that takes that paycheck home weekly, $675. That comes to about $2,500 a month, a little more than that. There are people living on that. You're talking about what is that? That's like a $30,000 a year income. There's a huge amount of Americans out there living on that kind of an income. Think about them taking home an extra $375 or $325 every week. At that economic level, at that lifestyle level, it's astronomical. And not only that, when you start pouring that money back into the economy, what are you doing? You're exploding manufacturing jobs. You got to create more goods and services for the extra money that people now have to spend, which explodes the job market, which makes the tax revenue coming into government explode because we move to a 14% flat tax. The 14% flat tax puts everybody in the game, everybody that spends money. I believe it's going to be a sales tax. Everybody's spending money. There's nothing that's left out of that mix. So we'll have money poured in from outside of the country, money pouring in from the activities inside the country. And that to me is going to be an economic driver that's going to put this country on the same footing it was economically during the McKinley era. That's why Trump loves McKinley, because the wealth coming in to run the government was truly astronomical. Think about it in today's real world structure, in the speed with which things happen here. Apply it to modern day, apply it to an extra 225 or 30 million people, 200 million people in the United States in comparison to how many were there back then, at the turn of the last century. So I think it becomes an incredible transformation of the standard of living in the country. I think that drives us to be able to shell trillions into the humanitarian side, get every homeless person off the street. I know a lot of people, hey, that's socialism. You're giving them stuff for free. Cut the bullshit there too, folks. Stop it. You got to stop it. God created this planet, a planet of abundance, and is not asking you for not even 10% tithing. That's Catholic BS. That's the church. Your creator's asking you for no money, asking you for no stipend to make your life good here. Your creator, do you make your babies give you some kind of stipend for taking care of, or your kids? Well, I'm going to do this for you, but you got to give this. It's insane. It's totally insane. That's how programmed we are. We should be making sure that no human in our country or on the planet is without a comfortable living situation, one that makes them at least happy. There should be not one person dying of poverty or starvation or disease. None. That's the way the world should be. And because we take off this economic dragon off our backs, not just here worldwide, that's what's going to explode us into the golden age. Look, Trump is a brilliant economic mind, regardless of what people think. Trump is brilliant, a genius in so many ways, but people do not understand that capacity because he has the ability to communicate in a way that he can relate to the average Joe Lunch Bucket and Sally Sewing Needle out there in America because of his communication style. What makes him powerful is he understands economics to a greater degree than any politician, because his whole life has been built and based on the economics of economies of scale in everything he has ever done here and abroad. You think he doesn't understand the economy? Look at what he's built around the world. Look at what he's had to do to get funding and financing when nobody here would give him financing. He would go out to even the Rothschild bankers and overseas to get money to do what needs to be done. People say, well, he's got money from these people. So what? Where do you think money comes from? You take money from where you can to get the job done. You do the best you can with the tools that you have at your disposal right now. And that's what he did. And the political side, this guy was devouring politicians in New York City before he ever got to DC. Gets to DC, people were saying he has no experience. Are you kidding me? The guy changed the landscape of New York City amongst all the criminal unions, contractors, and the mafia. And his dad said, don't go in there. He went in there and he did it. He changed the landscape, the cityscape of New York City. What do you think this guy doesn't understand? He's got a wingspan that is so massive that he can't be stopped no matter what he decides to do, with the help of the cleared path that the military has obviously been running around the world. That's why Trump says there's a golden age coming. If anybody understands the economics of this planet better than any politician in any country, it's Donald Trump. He gets that. So anyways, I think the economy is going to go there. We still are waiting for this hit, this downhill slide. This, Juan's talked about the near-death experience. I mean, look, I still give those things credence. They may happen just at a different time. That might be the shock value to wake up the rest of them. But I've been telling people, as I told this lady today, look, don't worry. We have an unbelievable future coming. We have an unbelievable future coming. It's not just because of the economics, but we are now walking into that spiritual realm that has been aligning itself for millennia. This time, to bring that force all through, the whether you call it the DNA of all biophysiology, in this quantum realm, to activate it to a higher level, to turn the lights on. That's why I believe Q says nothing will stop what is coming. Nothing. That's why it's biblical. Yes. It's biblical. It's metaphysical. It's quantum physical. All the vectors of all the forces of creation are converging at the same place and point in time, and it's going to activate this unbelievable world.
Well said. Yes, this is the beginning of the golden age. You raised some great points there, Scott. I have two quick comments, and then I want to wrap up the show with one more subject line. But, you're right. We've got Donald Trump, the great, arguably one of the greatest businessmen in the world, certainly in American politics, demonstrated. You've got Elon Musk, who knows a thing or two about wealth creation. You say what you want about Musk, that's a whole different conversation. But in terms of turning this country around, that guy's an asset right now. And so what you have here, you have that leading all the things you mentioned, the tariffs coming in, the tax going down, the expansion of that extra capital in the Americans' pockets being spent and fueled into the economy, self-fulfilling. No question about it. Then you factor in suppressed technologies, new technologies. You're absolutely right, folks. You can feel the goosebumps if you're really tracking with Scott on this. It really, we have the best form of government this world has known. It came from our founders through our creator. And we have these leaders now in place that have demonstrated they know how to fix this thing. Scott touched on all that. You have here a recipe for wealth that people are rejecting my words right now because they can't even believe it. We spent our entire life scraping to get by that month with a mountain of $500,000 or $1 million worth of debt behind us to boot. Okay, we've never owned anything. We've never been in control of our spiritual expenditure of energy, which brought us energy called money, which was corrupt, and it's not money, it's just debt. We can go on all day on this. And I've only got a few minutes, but Scott, I want to dovetail into what you just kind of brought us to. And that is, from a spiritual perspective, speaking in terms of good versus evil war that we're engaged in, and the recent turn of events of Trump coming back, and thinking in terms of energy, frequencies, and expansion, which is what you were just doing. What do you see happening today, and where do you see this leading? And you kind of alluded, you've kind of answered it already, but elaborate on it as we close. With the successful implementation of what Trump is promising us, the administration is professing forward and beginning to do towards this golden age. How do you see this country in 4 years? What's it like for the average Joe Lunchbox? What's America going to look like? What's his world going to be like?
Yeah. I think that's a great question. It's a little tough to predict, and only because I don't have my finger on the pulse of let's say middle America in terms of how much they can stretch their vision, because a developing world, it's kind of like this. I had a business situation in the last year where I brought a partner into a company as a minority investor. Things went south because I discovered he was stealing a fortune after I paid him a fortune, he and his wife, in a year's time, and taking credit for this incredible vision I built in this company, the way it was built out, all of it, right down to what the baseboard looked like, to the paint color, all that kind of stuff. And so somebody was telling me, well, since this happened, they are taking credit because they're the ones that created this. I said, well, let me give you a proof positive that that couldn't be true. They had no money. They were driving jalopies, both of them, had enough money to pay bills for 2 months when I met them. They made that clear. Yet they take credit for building this Taj Mahal. I'm like, well, here's the thing. Your vision does not exceed your bank account. If you have no money, you can't possibly envision what you would like to do as you build out this company. I had the money. I poured a fortune into it. It was, and the reason I could have this grand vision of what this was and what I created there, it's because I had the money. If I didn't have the money, my vision would have been a lot lower. Okay. So I liken that to the same situation we are in the country. Most people live just over broke. That's where the term job comes from. I have a job, just over broke. So when we lay out the landscape of what we have in front of us for this magnificent future, the golden age, 1,000 years of peace, all these things, the thing that I don't have my finger on the pulse of, there's hope out there in the country, but can people shut out the noise, shut out the matrix, shut out all the influences that come into us every day, whether it's sitting in church, getting the same church narrative and the guilt and the fear part of it, or pray and keep asking God for stuff. I say, stop praying, for Christ's sake. Shut your mouth, shut up, let your creator talk to you. You don't have to ask for anything. Your creator knows exactly what you want, what you need, what you value, what you love. Why do you have to ask for something? You think the all-knowing doesn't know that too? Just shut up, slow down, stop, go out in the country, sit down, meditate, and start envisioning in your mind what you would like your life to be like. If you got a 30% increase in pay next month, next week, and then if you do have that 30% increase, and now I that's enough money that I could probably get a down payment on equipment for a body shop. I've always wanted to build a body shop, and then once I get that body shop going, and let's say I'm making this much money, we could buy a boat. You just go into that creative process in your mind, and you start envisioning step by step. It's like, I heard a guy say this years ago: the further you go, the more you see, and the more you see, the further you'll go. And if we don't have the economic power to do that, we can't take that journey, see more, and want to go further. But you can do that in your mind if you start contemplating this. If we can get people to check out of the dream spell, disconnect as much as you can from the matrix, and go into vision mode, go into Christ consciousness creation mode, we could explode this thing in 5 to 8 years to be a new empire that we're building with so much speed, bringing down these old structures, crappy cities, demolishing the old style, the way we used to live, and having technologies to build with speed and build with environmentally friendly material, and the integration into symbiotic energy fields with all of creation. If we can think about, that's why I love hanging around Sasha Stone so much, and I do things with Sasha, because he's traveled the whole world. He's met all of the kings, the queens, royal families, major players in governments on this humanitad mission, and so he's been able to stretch my thinking in what could this world look like. If we can do that here, by the end of Trump's term, this country will be running at full speed just before coming across the 40-yard dash line to set a world record. That's the capacity we have. If we stay down at this lower level, looking around, well, this is all that I have, and this is all that I said when I moved from Pennsylvania. No wonder people in California can come out of school, high school, college, and they just light the world on fire. Why? Because you look around everywhere in California and Los Angeles area, wealth like you've never seen. They grow up with that wealth. Well, when I get out of high school, I got to find a way to make $150,000 because I need to have a car like this, a house I need, right? You grew up where I grew up. You just thinking your brain is built for, just above minimum wage or having an average house or whatever. That's the human condition. So that's what we have to overcome in the next 4 years. Vision, big vision, creation. That's going to be, that's why I say I don't have my finger on the pulse of it. If we can start talking in a way to get people to start thinking like this, we can light this place on fire in 4 years. Like the world, like not the rest of the world would be shocked that we can actually build a new society in this country that way. So that's kind of how I see it. It's probably a long version of the answer, but I would say anything and everything is possible if we, those people they call influencers. I hate these terms, influencer, truther. Just don't label me. I just hate that crap. But those of us who are out here doing what we do, we can't be the same podcasters. Like Einstein said, you can't solve the problems of today with the same intellect that you had when they were created. You have to be beyond that level of thinking to solve those problems. Same here. The podcast, the influence world, those of us who are showing the new world coming, it is our responsibility to plant these seeds in the minds of our audience of expand your vision, stretch your thinking. What does Q say? Expand your thinking, right? These are biblical concepts, and they're also military intelligence concepts. Expand your thinking. That's our responsibility. Our responsibility isn't to analyze, and a lot of us do. I don't do it much anymore, but day by day analysis and like the news and just feeding our people. Okay, great. You're letting them know what's going on all day, every day. You have a platform here. Start stretching their belief in themselves. Start stretching their belief in what they can do, contributing to this magnificent new world. We've got to get in that psyche. We've got to help push aside the programming and tap into the other side and get them into Christ conscious mode, creating in their mind what they would like to see. That's the manifestation Christ talk about. That's why everything, all things and everything is absolutely possible.
Well said, Scott. A lot of things come to my mind. I think, say what you want about John Lennon, but I think of the song Imagine. That's thought precedes the physical universe. You get what you put your attention on. You said something very important. Check out of the dream spell. That's what we need to do. Breaking out of that matrix, that controlled thought. And what I want to say is we have this in the brief breath in eternity moment right now. And that's what makes this historical, biblical, metaphor, whatever word you want to use. We have this moment in this brief breath through history where we can tap into this, create that, be a part of that, and make this happen. Why? Because I do believe it's God ordained. Trump is there for a reason. He survived it all for a reason, and so have all of us. And so, yeah, great words, Scott, and very inspirational. I've got to sign off the show here, but for those that aren't tracking with you in your work, what's the name of your Rumble channel and the website where people can connect up with you?
Yeah, Rumble, the easiest way to find my Rumble channel is just go to PSF for Patriot Street Fighter. All those Street Fighters, one word for trademark reasons. PSFRumble.com. It'll land you right on the channel. PatriotStreetFighter.com is the website. And that's the easiest way to track me.
Excellent. Well, let's keep watching, coming full circle to the content we've covered. Let's keep watching our elected officials and see that they get the job done that they've professed to us. I believe the majority of the critical key things will be unfolding right before our eyes pretty soon. But let's watch that, and let's keep everybody, whatever you've been doing, folks, listening to Scott and I, to during this war, of doing your part. Keep doing your part. Stay alert. Keep fighting the fight until the ultimate victory, which is secured, free, sustainable freedom, is been returned, and we've been broken out of this matrix of controlled thought. And that's actually where it begins. So thanks a lot, Scott McKay, for joining me today, my good friend and patriot. And I'd like to chat with you when I wrap the show up. If you can stick around for a moment, I appreciate it. God bless you, Scott. Folks, I'll be right back with a quick wrap up.